please like our video and subscribe to RotoWire. Then go to rotowire.com/pod for a free 10-day trial.
Welcome to the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast, sponsored by Gamer Saloon. It is Friday, April 2nd, 2021. Alex Barutha here with Ken K-Train Kreitz.
All aboard.
And we have a special guest today. You'll notice that's not Shannon's laugh. That is Andre Snellings, the professor from ESPN, who I'll let you introduce yourself, Dre. Tell us what your title is at ESPN and kind of what you do on a daily or a weekly basis for them.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Like you said, I'm Andre Snellings. I'm a senior writer at ESPN. I write for ESPN Fantasy. I'm, I guess, the main fantasy basketball guy. I also write for the NBA page. I do some analytics. And these days, I've been doing a lot more sports gambling writing. And so, I'm off to, I don't know at what point it stops being a hot streak and what point it just becomes, doing well this year. But,
Right.
You're not going to mention your TV work, Dre? You and Rachel McNichols hanging out?
Yeah, I've been on the jump a couple times. I used to have a spot on Daily Wager, which was the gambling show that ESPN put out, but they moved to Vegas and I stayed in Connecticut. So these days, I think I'm doing more radio than anything else. You could have heard me arguing with Max Kellerman on his show earlier this week, arguing about whether the Bucks could legitimately challenge the Nets in the East. So, I get around.
Lower. This is much lower down on Dre's resume, but at one time he was a RotoWire contributor.
Oh yeah. RotoWire is where I got my start as a sports writer, and I just randomly, I didn't sign up to write for RotoWire, right? I tried to sign up for the site. And this was back when I was a student. And when they said, well, you have to pay, I closed out. I was like, well, I can't afford to pay. And, that was
always warms my heart when you and Stefania Bell worked together on an NBA injury article on ESPN, because you guys are our two most famous RotoWire alums over there at the mothership in Bristol, Connecticut.
Yeah, and Stefania, she's the best. So it touches my heart when I get to work with Stefania on a piece. That means I might actually have something good to talk about.
Okay, well, let's kick things off. I want to get your take on this, Dre, because we had LaMarcus Aldridge make his debut. Brooklyn, blew out Charlotte. It was 111-89. But maybe surprisingly, Aldridge got the start over DeAndre Jordan, who ended up being a DMP. We also had no Hornets score more than 13 points in that game. Obviously, that's not the main storyline here. But Aldridge, 11 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block. I wouldn't expect him to get 6 assists every game, right? But is this generally, he started and, played over DeAndre. Is this kind of what you're expecting from him, more or less?
Fantasy-wise, I'm really not expecting anything from LaMarcus, from Griffin, because not only, you pointed out he did start over DeAndre Jordan, but James Harden didn't play, Kevin Durant didn't play. Aldridge is not a big man that's going to put up big man categories. Like, the reason he's relevant is because he scores, and he's going to be at best a fourth option on a team with 3 mega scoring options, so, if I had him on my team, I might keep him around. I'm not saying I would necessarily cut him, but I'm not expecting any of this. This was a better game than I thought he might have for the rest of the season.
And I don't think his price has gone down that much yet in daily, has it, Alex? He still has the big name. And it seems like he might have nights like this, as Dre pointed out, when Harden or Durant or Irving are not playing. But if the price is high, then he's not even a daily option.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, he in San Antonio, he was like a co-number. He was really a number 2 option at that point behind DeMar DeRozan, and even DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson. Those guys were really starting to step up, and now he goes to like Dre said, like a number 4 option at best. And
when Uncle Greeny's hot, baby, he's a 5 or 6.
Yep.
Green outscored Charlotte last night in the first quarter. He had 12. The Hornets had 11.
Yeah.
Old guys.
That whole thing was just crazy because it's not like Charlotte's bad. Like even with LaMelo hurt, they had won 4 or 5, and then Jeff Green outscores them in the first quarter to end the game essentially.
Don't you think reality might be setting in a little for the Hornets without Ball? All they do is get Wanamaker at the trade deadline. That was a little bit of a disappointment.
Maybe, but the thing is, it's not like Ball was killing it the whole year, right? He was their 6th man up until, like a month and a half, 2 months into the season. And they were still solid the whole year. Like their starting backcourt from last year was actually pretty decent players. And then they added, Gordon Hayward. So, I mean, I don't expect them to be world beaters, but I don't expect Jeff Green to outscore them for a quarter either.
All right, well, hey, let's travel to Denver, where the Nuggets beat the Clippers 101-94. I think Nuggets led this the entire way. At least they did when I was watching. Aaron Gordon had his best game with the Nuggets. Only been there for 3 games, but he had 14 points, 6 boards, 6 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. Dre, do you see upside this season for Gordon this season? And then what's nice for this deal for Denver is he's got another year on that contract. So how do you view him next season in Denver as well?
Gordon, when he got traded there, I didn't see much upside because he made his name as a scorer / towards the end, he was playing a little more point for Orlando. And Denver had those roles filled, even in the front court, right? You had Jokic, but then you also had MPJ. And I just didn't see where Gordon was going to get enough touches on offense. And I still think that's the case. I don't think he's going to do enough to be very highly fantasy relevant as far as scoring and assists. The thing last night that catches my eye is the 3 steals and 2 blocks. And if he can, become more of a defensive role player, then that can be something that gives him some fantasy upside in that respect. But it's just, there's only one ball. And I guess, people have been pointing out the 3 games he's played, Jokic's numbers have gone through the floor. And so is he going to snipe some of those front court ball handling assignments away from Jokic, and maybe his biggest impact would be what he does to the former best player in the game?
Do you think people in Florida are like, 5 stocks? Where was this hustle the last 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, before he got traded, there was a lot of conversation about, well, if he goes to the Nuggets or if he goes to a good team, that's what I would hear a lot of people say. He's the type of player that will be better on a good team than a bad team. Yeah, maybe because he cares, or maybe because it lets him fulfill this role, right? Maybe he was miscast as a scorer. That's not, what his skill set said he could be. As he points out, he's number 50 now because he kept getting 50s in the dunk contest. He's stupid athletic. Maybe this is his manifest destiny.
When he said the 50 stuff, I was like, man, you got to let go of that dunk contest win. That has done nothing for your actual career. Alex, one thing I like about this deal for Denver is, to me, I always thought Denver was too deep, and it wasn't clear who their top 5 are. Now they have a clear starting unit. Gary Harris, no longer in town. Do you see any value on this Denver bench, or do you think their minutes are going to stay small like they were last night?
I think their minutes are pretty capped on the bench. I mean, I think they have to get ready for that starting unit to be like big time in the playoffs, right? Like, I just think that you're not gonna be able to play that much PJ Dozier, or like Monte Morris has been hurt, but how many real great minutes are you getting out of like JaVale McGee? Like, he's solid, but like it's gonna be a lot of Paul
Millsap.
Yeah. So I think they need to lean on their starting unit now to kind of prepare for the playoffs. So I wouldn't expect any of these guys, that I mentioned, to be relevant in fantasy.
Even rookie Campazzo's like 37 or something, right?
Yeah.
The 30-year-old rookie.
All right, Alex, take us to Philadelphia.
Yeah, finally, Joel Embiid, someone who's gunning for the MVP, could be available for Saturday's game against the Timberwolves. Andre, I saw one of your articles on ESPN about the Bucks case to be the best team in the East. I forget the exact headline. As a Bucks fan, I was excited to see that. I guess more generally, how do you view that top tier of the East? I guess is it just Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Philly, not necessarily in that order?
Essentially, at this moment, that's what I would say. I mean, teams like Miami and Boston, have shown that they can be spoilers if they're playing good. I don't know what's going on in Boston right now, but they still have enough talent to be a team nobody wants to play. And obviously Miami just showed that they can get hot and make a run all the way to the finals. So you can't forget those teams, but realistically right now it looks like a 3-team race. And I feel like all 3 teams have a shot at it. And that's actually a big change for me on the Brooklyn front. Like coming into this season, I was very low on Brooklyn. And even after they got Harden, I wasn't sure if they could, because I saw it as Harden coming to join the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving team. And I don't think the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving base is a championship base. But what in reality what's happened is Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving joined last year's Rockets, and so that changes things, because that Rocket base, in my opinion, could have won a championship had Chris Paul not gotten hurt. And it's like they upgraded Chris Paul to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. So the Nets are strong. I think the 76ers are strong, but I think that there's been a very specific way teams have beaten the Bucks the last 2 playoffs. And I think the moves that they've made have made it more difficult to beat them in that way. I don't think you can just wall off Giannis anymore, because Drew and Middleton can make you pay. And so, and then when you look at the Nets and the 76ers, they don't even play like that. Giannis eats against the 76ers. He's averaging like 40 and 15 or something over the last few years. So I think that the playoffs should be really interesting, and I want to see what happens.
All right, I think. Oh, go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, and even those teams like Boston and Miami, you mentioned that could be spoilers. Like that, even that section of the Eastern playoffs is going to be interesting. Charlotte, I think, can make some noise, especially if they get LaMelo Ball back. Chicago just traded for Vucevic. It'll be interesting for sure. But Ken, let's go with the Heat. Oladipo made his debut.
Yeah, another new face in a new place. Victor Oladipo makes his Heat debut. It was a delayed game because he's suffering from a cold. He had a modest 6.5 assist, 3 rebound, 2 steal night, only shot 2 of 8 from the field. Dre, is there a lot of room for Victor Oladipo to highlight himself for free agent this summer in this Heat lineup?
I don't see it. And I say that, Victor Oladipo is a favorite in the Snellings household after his appearance on The Masked Singer. That was my kid's introduction to him, But, I mean, I just don't see it. The Heat are, for one, they're a team that I think more of it is a defensive-minded team than an offensive-minded team to begin with. And then the offensive-minded players that they have outside of Bam Adebayo are all in the backcourt. And so, Jimmy Butler is obviously the man, but you got Tyler Hero and Gordon Dragic and,
What's Robinson doing if he's not shooting threes?
Exactly. Duncan Robinson and I'm Kendrick Nunn, like they're all guards that can score. And so I don't see how Oladipo differentiates himself in that respect. I mean, he can get on the court and he can play, but I don't see him even flirting with 20 points a game. And he's another one, like we mentioned earlier with Aaron Gordon, or LaMarcus Aldridge. He doesn't typically have contributions other than scoring that make him worth that kind of while. So if he can do like Gordon and all of a sudden he's averaging 3 steals or something, then holler at me then. But otherwise, I just don't really see it.
Yeah. Also in this game, Steph Curry may have re-aggravated his tailbone, yet he did score 36. Keep an eye on Curry's status tonight against Toronto in the back-to-back. Alex, looks like Trevor Ariza, speaking of old guys, has earned the power forward gig. We were debating that last week. Does Ariza have any value?
Not really. I don't think. I mean, it's been like 20 to 25 minutes a game for him. He's going to fire up his 3 or 4 3-pointers. But the rebounding, it's going to be here and there. Like he'll get 8 one game and then he'll get 2. So I don't really see him as a strong fantasy guy. If you're in like a 16-team league, maybe
30 deep.
30 deep, yeah, exactly. Be a starter in your 30 deep team.
Yeah, in my 30 deep, I had Ariza on my bench, and so I'm trying to make a late season run, because all of my guys.
There are no shots for Victor Oladipo. There are no shots for Trevor Ariza.
But he doesn't have to shoot. Like Trevor Ariza actually does those things that I would wish that Oladipo would do to get some value.
Well, Alex, we had another return to play in Cleveland. Take us to the land.
A shocking return from Kevin Love. Returned Thursday night for the Cavs. Went for 13, 4, and 3 with 3 3-pointers in 20 minutes. That was with Larry Nance out due to an illness. So Kevin Love got the start at center. And Dean Wade got the start at power forward. Congrats to any listeners who know who that is. Dre, this is kind of a tough question. Yeah, the other D Wade.
Right.
Do you, for the rest of the season, do you trust Larry Nance or Kevin Love more?
Did you ask, do I trust him? No.
Yeah,
can I answer either or question with no?
You just started a 30 deep league. Surely Love or Nance would have a role on the 30 deep squad.
30 deep, I'll take both of them. But 10 or 12 deep. I mean, if I had to depend on one, then I'm going to lose. But also, I would depend on Nance more than Love, just because I don't even know why Love plays ever at this point. Like, if you haven't played the whole season for the Cavs, they're young, they're rebuilding. Love's not a part of their future. Maybe they would want to try to showcase him to try to trade him or something. I mean, I don't.
Got one more year on that deal at like roughly $20 million. So I'm sure they'd love to get that off their books this summer if they can. But
yeah.
So how do you show he's healthy while not halting the progress of your developing backcourt? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Love is another one whose main value, especially since he's lost his athleticism, whatever athleticism he once had, is just scoring. Like he shoots. Like he's not doing. There was an old Richard Pryor joke about Leon Spinks, where he's talk about old guy stuff, where he says, Leon Spinks does one thing: he knocks dudes out. Like if you put a microphone in his face, he couldn't talk, but he knocks dudes out. Like Kevin Love shoots. That's it. And on a team where, their young backcourt is their offensive engine, and they even have some young front court players. I don't see what Love's point is there. So from a fantasy perspective, I wouldn't want to depend on him.
The Cavs have lost 4 in a row, so it's probably time to. Yeah, they can probably give up the old chase for the play-in tournament now.
Ken, we had let us know what's going on with the Orlando Magic.
Ha! My man! Chuma Okeke, baby! A career high 10 rebounds last night as the Magic defeat a woefully, how do you say this? They didn't play anyone. Pelican squad. Okeke, 8 points, career high 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. Okay, Wendell Carter probably led the Magic. He actually played 31 minutes off the bench. Doubled with 21 points and 12 boards. I don't know why Wendell Carter is not starting, but I assume he will shortly. Gentlemen, we'll start with Dre. Who's the leading scorer on the Magic next year?
Me?
Ooh, you can play the 4 or the 5, Dre. What?
Yeah, I could be an undersized 4. The way the NBA is moving.
Stretch 4 though, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I stretch out sideways. I mean, Wendell Carter in Chicago was supposed to have upside to be a decent scorer, but he was always thought of as more of a defensive guy that could shoot and then like a real go-to scorer. They've got
the
two.
Same thing about Jonathan Isaac, right?
That's what I was going to say. I mean, between Jonathan Isaac and they've got guys that are out for the year, but they're not scorers either. So I'll take their leading scorers not on the Magic. Like they got to bring in anybody that's a better scorer than what they've currently got.
They could have an all defensive front court with Carter, Okeke, and Jonathan Isaac. That's a stretch all, maybe 4th team all defense. But those guys, that's a nice way of saying they're all defense first and can't score.
Well, they say if too many people are all defense first, that just means you got a team that can't score. Like that, you got a team full of terrible players.
When Markelle Fultz is your best outside shooter,
yeah.
A little scary. Neither of you mentioned Fultz, or were you about to go with Markelle, Alex?
I was thinking about Markelle. I just like the world in which Markelle Fultz is the leading scorer on a team is not a world I want to think about too much. So I mean, I gotta give props to him. He's made a like a
Right.
great career comeback, considering where he was. And it seems like he'll be at least, if not a starting guard for a good team, he could be like a 6-man. But yeah, like Dre mentioned Mo Bamba, I want to see a Wendell Carter, Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac lineup out there. 0 passing lanes available.
10-foot wingspans just from baseline to baseline.
Yeah, I mean, and Markelle Fultz, I feel like if they had this exact team next year, then Fultz is your leading scorer. And he could probably average close to 20 a game because he's got that kind of old school, like he's not a 3-point shooter, but if you just let him handle the ball all the time, he'll get you 20 points probably.
What's his shot percentage next year if he has 20 points a game?
Well, I would say it's not that low because he's not going to shoot a lot from the outside. He's going to be trying to get to the rim and so he'll probably shoot 45%. But
ugly mid-range.
The team would be last in the NBA in offensive rating. So the Magic fans would be mad. People that have him on their fantasy team might be happy.
He'll roll off the Bacon pick to the Isaac pick to the Carter pick. The Okeke pick for an ugly baseline 9-foot jumper that 44% of the time will eke in. All right, well, also Nickeil Alexander-Walker, so really weird, basically no Zion, no Ingram, no Ball for the Pelicans in this game, and NAW 39 minutes, 24 shots, for 30, I assume is a career high. I didn't look it up. 31 points.
No, his first start of the season this season, he dropped like 38 or something.
Nice.
This was in like January. Like he just came on the scene, and a lot of people were like, "Who the heck is that?"
Well, do you want to get into your Las Vegas NAW story now, Dre, or wait till the waiver wire section?
I'll wait till the waiver wire.
All right. Well, now we're going to bleed into our fan feedback section. This is where listeners of the pod, please go to our YouTube page and comment with any questions you'd like us to address. This week, Ramesh K wants to know, is Moses Brown for real? Moses in his last 9 games. First of all, just happy there's someone in the NBA with the name Moses again. Harkens back to the Moses Malone days with the glorious Bullets, or maybe his Rockets or Sixers days probably stand out more in your head. Anyway, Moses Brown, last nine games, 7 starts, 13.4 points, 12.3 rebounds, a glorious 1.7 blocks, and almost a steal a game. OKC just signed him to a very team-friendly multi-year deal. But gentlemen, let's start with you, Dre. Is Moses Brown for real?
Yes. I mean, because I do, when I worked for RotoWire, my article was called The Hoops Lab, right? And so I still do Hoops Lab videos, now for ESPN. They mainly run on my social media pages. But a few weeks ago before the trade deadline, I mentioned that if Al Horford got traded, Moses Brown, and to some extent, Roby, but mainly Moses Brown was the guy to watch. And then they didn't trade Horford, and I was like, wow, I don't know why they didn't trade Horford. And then they just said, well, he's going to sit for the rest of the year, which has, for fantasy purposes, the same impact on Moses Brown. So he's the man there. It's a rebuilding effort. They have no impetus ever not to play him. And yeah, he's a walking double-double. So, when his teammate back in the day lifted his chin up, he's still looking up.
Alex, anything to add?
I mean, he's pure hustle. So those guys I trust, right? If you can get 12 and 12 all the time with a couple blocks, and you're trying hard out there every single game, I'm less worried about those guys than the guys who are, who have gotten their way through like pure talent and they're shooting jumpers all the time and, stuff like that. So yeah, he's definitely for real.
G League is a little motivating, you're saying, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it is for a lot of guys. I mean, he was great in the bubble too. He's putting up like 18 and 14 or something insane like that in the G League bubble. So yeah, he's legit.
Also, I think Roby's really a power forward. He shouldn't be playing center. So they need a legit 5. Baisley's got some shoulder issues too, which are opening up minutes for Roby, a power forward. He's day-to-day. We'll see when Darius Baisley comes back. But all right, well, fans, please go to our YouTube page, the RotoWire YouTube page. Look for the fantasy basketball playlist. Leave some comments on this week's episode, and we'll use them next week. All right, Alex, take us to Waiver Wire.
Yeah, our waiver wire segment. So the first guy I'm going to highlight who's available in 50% of leagues, that's Bogdan Bogdanovich, who's available or who's rostered, I should say, in 36% of ESPN leagues and 59% of Yahoo leagues. He's ranked 41st on a per game basis over the past 2 weeks. Main thing here is that he started the past 4 games. And John Collins is out for it. They haven't really said quite how long yet, but it could be like a week or two. Yeah. Over the past 4 games, Bogdanovich, 17.5 points, 4.5 assists, 1.8 steals too, which is nice. Main thing here is like early in the year, he was playing bad or not up to his standard that we saw in Sacramento. Then he got hurt. Then he was slow to get back, and now it seems like he's finally in a rhythm, and the team trusts him. Yeah, so let's kick it to Dre for let us know about Nickeil Alexander-Walker here, Dre.
Yeah, we were talking about him a second ago. He's been, he's essentially the 6th man when everyone is healthy for the Pelicans, and he's shown that he could be a mid double-digit scorer in that 6th man role currently as it is now. With Lonzo Ball out, he's actually been starting, so he's averaging 20.5 points, 8 boards, and 2.7 assists and 3.8 threes over the last 6 games. I mentioned earlier that when he got his first start of the year and he popped off for almost 40, there were a lot of people like, who is this guy? But I remember him from the Vegas Summer League a couple years ago, after he got drafted, but before his rookie season, because he came in the same year with Zion. And, in Vegas, Zion was like the draw. People were going to come in and watch the Pelicans. And he had an amazing dunk line. And then the game started, and I think they played the Knicks, and he yanked the ball from the dude and dunked on him. And everybody was like, Zion. And then the earthquake happened, and Zion never played again.
Right, I remember that, yes. Was that Randall he stole the ball from?
It wasn't Randall. It was
Kevin Knox.
Yeah, it was Kevin Knox.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he just took it from him and just dunked all over the place. And so we used to say that, he caused the earthquake because he dunked so hard. But after that, the big name guys didn't really play so much in Vegas. And so I was watching Alexander Walker because I don't even think he played in the first game or 2. But when he came in, he was just the best player on the court. Every time I saw him play, he was the best player. And then Jackson Hayes would have the best dunk. That was the summer league for me that year. And I remember I came out because we were in Vegas. I put some money, like some long shot money on Alexander Walker as rookie of the year. Because I was like, if this guy plays, he's got game, and there's an old movie with the joke like, and I'm Sharon Stone's cousin, he's oh man, my man from Oklahoma City, he's his cousin. The other three name guy. Why am I blanking on his name? Alexander.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yeah.
It's his cousin, and he's just got game. So, he's getting opportunities in New Orleans right now. They acted like they wanted to trade Lonzo Ball. So, whereas I think Alexander Walker is a part of their future.
If they're outside looking in right now on the play-in, they'd be smart to play the younger guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Alex,
I was just going to say for a lot of fans probably haven't been able to go to Vegas for Summer League, but if you can, it is so much fun to go there. And a lot of the guys, being able to see those guys in person, I think gives you a different perspective on, you can really tell who is good, who might not make it.
It changes everything. A few years back when the Bucks were playing the Jazz, and there was the year that the Jabari Parker was the number 2 pick, and Dante Exum was the number 3 pick. So that's why I went to go watch that game. And instead, these guys I had barely heard of, named Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert, just put on a show. And I remember that I was tweeting from there, who are these dudes? Keep an eye out. I think they might be something someday.
Wait a minute. You're saying Dante Exum wasn't as lightning as you expected?
Oh my gosh! I was just like, how could you possibly get outplayed by Rudy Gobert? So.
All right. Well, I'm gonna dive in with my available in 50% of leagues picks. I've already mentioned him. Chuma Okeke. He's the only option to score in Orlando. Everything's about opportunity. This is his team, baby. He's finally healthy. He's going to get huge minutes. That we're talking about their front court of the future, Okeke, Isaac, and Carter. Last 4 starts for Okeke, 15.5 points, 6.5 boards, 3.3 assists, plus 2 triples and 1.5 steals, and almost a block a game while shooting 52%. I will take that off the waiver wire. Alex, who's your long shot of the week? I can't believe it's a long shot.
I know, this one surprised me. Nerlens Noel, 23% roster on ESPN. You figure big market. Yeah. Mitchell Robinson's out. That was like legitimate big news. Not too much to say other than like he's the starter now and averaging 7 points, 7 boards, good efficiency. We know he's a block and steals guy. Pick him up if he's available.
3% of ESPN leagues. Yeah, hard to believe.
He's a poor man, Moses Brown.
Yeah, very true. Actually, can you imagine like when the Sixers first drafted Nerlens that we'd be talking? I mean, Moses Brown didn't like exist as a player back then, but it's surprising to see where things.
He was only 6'10" and 8 years old at AAU ball.
Right.
Yeah. Him and Okafor both. Someone who, and another guy who looked like he was not doing so well, but now has picked things up, Dre, Malik Monk.
Yeah. I mean, so Malik Monk, I guess I see him as like a short-term potential guy while LaMelo Ball is out. If Ball comes back, then he goes further down the list. But right now, he's just that instant offense off the bench guy. And Charlotte needs that because, they had to move their other instant offense off the bench guy back into the starting lineup with LaMelo Ball out. So Malik Monk, I don't know, Ken has me in the old guy frame of mind. It's kind of like back in the day with Vinnie Johnson.
Vinny, I knew we were going Vinny, baby.
The microwave. Yep. And so,
Lost the Michigan bias, Dre. I knew you were going Vinny there. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, there it is. And plus, when I was in 6th grade, that was my nickname, which didn't fit because I wasn't instant offense. I was a defensive guy, but they just thought I looked like Vinnie Johnson. But yeah,
the Rick Mahorn name didn't take off then.
No. I was the shortest, smallest kid on my team, so Rick Mahorn didn't exactly work for me. But Malik Monk, you just when he's hot, he's gonna drop 25 points in 10 minutes. When he's not, he's gonna take 25 shots in 10 minutes and just miss them. But
he
it's
was
like
hot, and then he had a quick foot injury to miss a few games, which I think lowered his ownership. But he's gonna go right into that role and be ready again.
Yeah, right, I mean he's worth paying attention to.
Running a little behind. I'll just say my long shot of the week is Terrence Mann for the Clippers. Lou Williams is gone. I think they're looking also like Monk for a 6-man scoring option. I think they're leaning on the rookie man to be that guy. Thin bench for the Clippers. So take a flyer. He's owned in 11% of leagues on ESPN. But with that, Alex, you want to take us to the top 20 fantasy players discussion for next season?
Yeah, we're not going to get to every player because that would be its own like 2-part, 90-minute podcast. But just want to highlight a few of the guys on this list. So I think the first thing I want to bring up is we have James Harden as number 2, we have Kyrie as number 8, and we have Kevin Durant as number 5. But I feel like those guys are where they are partially because they've all missed time. And this is per game value. Harden's 2, Durant 5, Irving 8.
Per game. The totals are not there.
Yeah. But I would feel like next season, Dre, if we have to assume they're all healthier. I would imagine, I would imagine it would be hard for those guys to all collectively reach those heights again.
Yeah, I mean, it, like you said, it's been a perfect storm of availability. But when they're all together, for one, Kyrie Irving, I don't think it's ever a safe assumption that he's going to not miss so much time. I mean, coming into the season, he had missed 100-something games over the last handful of seasons. So, I would not have him this high on the list anyway. And then James Harden, I think in the 7 games that all 3 have played, his scoring average is like 6 points lower. Like his assists are still there, but his scoring is more like 21 a game instead of almost 30. So, I think they all 3 slide, but Kyrie's the one I would slide the furthest because availability is the best ability, right?
Yeah.
I
want to point out something on the list, Alex.
Yeah.
Going away from the Nets. We've got, Jokic has been hands down the best fantasy player this season. But to something Dre brought up earlier, his numbers are down a bit with Aaron Gordon in the lineup. In the 3 games of Gordon, he's averaging 17 points, 9 boards, and 6.7 assists. Nothing to shake your head at, but significantly lower than where he was without Jokic. Now, if I'm a Nuggets fan, I'm happy. Hopefully he's a little more rested for the playoffs. Doesn't have to carry the team all season. But if this trend continues and Gordon is under contract with them next year, I worry a little about Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic, he is, before Gordon got there, they dealt with injuries too, but Jokic was really just putting that team on his back, man. The 27 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. He was doing as much as any other. There's a reason that he's the favorite in the MVP discussion right now, right? But
and not bad for a guy pretty much out of shape.
But that's what they say about the guy.
Heater at halftime and putting up those numbers is impressive.
I was about to say that's what they say about the guy in second in the MVP race too, right? Everybody said James Harden looked like Kendrick Perkins, and so maybe getting in shape is overrated for the NBA.
Yeah. and for podcasts.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. That's why I fit right in.
Join us, Trey.
I think a lot of times, when a team gets better, a lot of the top guys, their production goes down because they just don't have to do as much. I don't think Gordon is the solution, right? He's, I don't know if he's quite that guy, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye on. And if he wasn't the number 1 guy in fantasy next year, that wouldn't be shocking. It could be Steph, could be Embiid. There are other guys on this list who all could make a run for that, but we got to see how the rest of the season plays out.
Now, we've got Towns, Karl-Anthony Towns, all the way down at 9. Again, this is this season per game production. I assume, though, he's going to go higher than 9 if he returns to play. Or do we think that the diminished stats relative to last year are more permanent? Alex, I see you have a chagrined look on your face.
He had a tough year. It's, his I think it was his mother who passed away from COVID. And
it's COVID.
He had COVID himself. I know other family members of his had it. It was just they got off to such a bad start. Coach fired. This has basically been the worst kind of setup year possible for Towns, and he's still 9th. So
Russell's hurt the whole time too.
Yeah, Russell's hurt the whole time. Yeah. I really like Karl-Anthony Towns as a player. I think he's wildly underrated. I don't know if he can be your number 1 guy, right, on a great team. But on fantasy, yeah, I'm taking him top 10 any season.
Yeah. If fully healthy, perfect world scenario, Towns had an outside argument for number 1 coming into this season, just because he doesn't have any weaknesses. He doesn't just shoot threes. He's among league leaders in 3-point volume, and his percentages are all great. And his defensive stats, he'll get you some blocks. So I like Towns. I think he's definitely higher than 9. I've already told you I wouldn't have Kyrie there. I think Kawhi Leonard's another one that you have to have the 25% tax for load management. So already he's sneaking up into the top 7. And, probably some of the other, we mentioned the Nets. He could probably slide ahead of at least one of the Nets as well. So yeah, I still think Towns is a top 5 pick in fantasy next year.
Dre, anything else stand out? Our top 20 chat here. Anybody breaking through? You think SGA makes it next season?
Possibly, but I feel like he kind of had a perfect storm this season just because the Thunder were so empty. And at some point, they're going to have to do something with these 30 draft picks they have over the next few years.
34.
They have to 34. Yes, I'm sorry.
Over 7 years. I don't know where the roster spots are coming from, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. At some point they have to start translating those values into current player assets, and whoever they bring in, takes away from SGA's upside. So I think he could sneak in maybe at the back end of the top 20, but when I'm looking and I'm seeing LeBron James, Jason Tatum, and Trae Young are the last 3 names on the list, it's hard for me to see SGA jumping over players like that. Maybe Vucevic falls in this new role. I don't know. And Fred VanVleet representing at number 16.
Hey, the older Lowry gets, the better VanVleet's numbers are going to get.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes, I think one of the guys I'm keeping an eye on is Zion, just because, he started out, his free throw shooting at the start of the year was so bad that it was just really like tanking his fantasy value. And that was the same situation last year when he finished like 70 something per game. But now he's actually hitting his free throws at like a good rate, like better than Giannis at least, right? He's like 75% or something. And as long as Zion can hit, 70 to 75% of his free throws, he's only going to get better as a playmaker, better as a rebounder. His scoring is his ability to score at the basket is like unlike anything I've ever seen before. It's very different from the guys we're used to. Like, it's very different from prime Shaq. It's even different from Giannis, but it's just incredible, man.
Yeah, you mentioned his playmaking. I feel like that's kind of his manifest destiny of getting to the next level. Is like if they let him start running essentially full-time point forward and he gets up around 5 or 6 assists a game, to go with probably getting close to 30 points on 89% field goal percentage or whatever it is he shoots. I think that's how he sneaks up. I always thought he would be better in the steals and blocks category. He was pretty good at that in college, and I thought last year he wasn't because of the injury, but he still hasn't brought that back yet. But yeah, if he can find ways to get another counterpunch besides just the scoring and field goal percentage, then yeah, he could get on this list.
Okay, that was some good discussion. We'll see how those guys pan out for the rest of the year. But Ken, it is time for your pseudo-improvised old man rant.
The Brooklyn Nets. Everyone and their mom is signing with the Brooklyn Nets. Then everyone in the press is like, oh, don't blame the players. They should sign wherever they want. Yes, it's fine. But as a fan, it sucks. Blake Griffin barely moves his body for 3 years, and let alone doesn't dunk the ball at all. And then his first game with the Nets, he gets a dunk. Dre did point out pre-show as kind of a James Worthy dunk, but it was still a dunk, technically. And then LaMarcus Aldridge has 6 assists in his first game with the Nets. If I'm a Spurs fan, I want some of that salary back, baby. You didn't do that, San Antonio. Anyway, from the fans' point of view, all these buyouts and friends all playing together on super teams, I don't like it. Unless, of course, it happens with the Celtics. Then I'm all. And that is my old man rant of the week.
Oh man, that will pretty much wrap it up for us. But Ken, you do have you do take us out of every episode with a quote. So let's hear that.
Ooh, I didn't plan for that either.
Oh man.
Terrible. Yeah. Let's see. All right, we'll go to Oklahoma City and their 34 draft picks in the next 7 years. 17 are in the first round, 17 in the second round, by the way. Where Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt said, "Oh no, you didn't," after the Minnesota Timberwolves team account posted a photo of Andrew Wiggins with the caption, "Mayor of OKC." I don't think OKC feels very bad about Wiggins right now, though. Okay, attention passengers. This 3-car fantasy train wreck has hit the end of the line. And a big thank you to Andre Snellings for joining us on the pod today. Thank you, Andre.
Thanks for having me. It's always good to come home.
We're going to harass you for preseason.
Y'all know where I stay now.
All right, fantastic. All right, thanks again, fans.